I'd like to welcome you guys to this week's report. Today is Thursday, March the 28th, and we've got some really lousy weather coming this weekend again. I talked about last week, big storm coming in, Saturday, Sunday. Saturday's gonna rain, Sunday's gonna be blown out. Tomorrow, Friday doesn't look too bad, but I don't know. It's always really unpredictable the days before a storm like that comes in. Might be okay, might not be okay. I was hoping to fish tomorrow afternoon. Don't know if that's going to happen. I'm also getting over a cold right now, so if you're hearing me snuffling and stuff like that, that's what it's all about. I don't know if this shows up in the video or not, but I got a bunch of reels here on the table. I've been going through reels, getting things spooled up for the season ahead here. It's kind of a kickoff time here with April 1st. On Monday, we're going to have Rockfish opening and stuff like that. But before I get into that, more weather news. After this week's storm, after this weekend storm, we got a few days of decent weather in most areas, and then it looks like Friday through Saturday or Sunday next week we're gonna have a ton of wind again. So I hate that, and I'm sorry, but I know a lot of you guys can only fish the weekends, and I spent a huge part of my life being one of those guys, and I used to just kill me. Great weather all week. Guys are catching fish, and I go out on the weekend, it's blowing 20 or raining. Full boats, everything else. So I feel your pain, and hopefully you can take a day off to go sometime, or this weather just switches so it's windy during the week and calm on the weekend would be great as well. Anyway, there's not a whole lot to cover in any spot here because we've had lousy weather all week off and on, and very few people out fishing. Sport boats aren't really running yet. But I'm going to go through the motions here anyway and talk about what you might expect this coming week, especially with Rockfish reopening. Up at the Channel Islands, all the boats up there, Channel Islands and Ventura, Santa Barbara, they should all start running here this week, weather permitting. Got to target Rockfish. There's going to be sea bass and halibut and things like that caught as well, but I think their main focus in the beginning is going to be rockfish, or maybe just start shallow and then fish deep. The new regulations this year are 2 red snapper, 2 vermilion rockfish, down from 4. Copper rockfish, also the chuckleheads, are still only 1. So apparently they've deemed that the reds are endangered as well. And I think some of these regulations are fairly knee-jerk in that sport boats, when they fish rockfish, they separate out the reds they catch in their fish report to attract passengers to come fishing on their boat because they want to catch reds as opposed to a Picacho or something else. And what ends up happening is you see a lot of reds in the count, and they're like, oh, they're catching too many reds. It's not that they're catching any more than they did. It's just that they're reporting them separately. So I guess what are you going to do? You can keep your boat at the dock because people don't want to go, or you can report what you're actually catching and advertise them come out, and then they change your regulations. Speaking of regulations, we got a couple of rockfish changes coming. The cowcod conservation area has been eliminated. That affected Santa Barbara Island, San Nick, Tanner, and Cortez Banks, Cherry Banks, and the 43. But they did put in some things in place to protect certain types of coral, which affects some areas around Santa Barbara Island, also around San Nick. It basically splits the Cherry Bank in half and or bisects it. And it's been a while since I've been out there, but the best areas on that bank are closed now, and the 43 is still closed. So Fishing Game hasn't actually published those regulations yet, so if you're going to go to any of those areas right after the opener, I'd be kind of careful where you fish. There are some proposed things out, but I'm not 100% sure those are accurate. Hopefully they have them before Monday. Another thing is boats are now required to carry a descending device to descend cowcod, or in my case, to descend cowcod and Picacho and Mexican reds, because I don't like any of those. I love cowcod, don't get me wrong, but the other two can happily descend on my boat. If you're fishing in an area where you're likely to catch cowcod, or a depth where you're likely to catch cowcod, you're going to need at least a 10-pound weight on that descender. I have a 12-pound on mine. You can use deep drop swordfish weight, whatever. Or you're just not going to get it down. It'll float a 3 or 5 pound weight. I'd advise using an electric reel with a weight that heavy if you can, because that's a lot of cranking. You're going to need to get those things down to 200 or 300 feet before they'll descend. And the best one that they have, I have one, I was going to bring it in but I forgot it, is it's one that you can adjust to different, release at different depths. So if I'm fishing in 600 feet, I can set to release in 300. Or if I'm fishing shallower, I can set to release shallower. You only need to get about halfway down before they go back down. So, I got them on Amazon. They're not that expensive, but you have to have it on your boat or you'll get a ticket. So yeah, that's Channel Islands. Rockfish will be the name of the game. Start seeing some sea bass soon, halibut. I know the Aloha Spirit, once they start running again, will be spending part of their time looking for that. And I know the overnight boats out of Ventura and Santa Barbara, when they go to Santa Rosa or places like that, or the West End of Cruise, they're going to be looking for halibut and sea bass to go with their rockfish. Yeah, so heading down, so I don't normally talk about Santa Barbara and San Nick, but those are going to become viable options. Again, I'm sure the Eldorado out of Berth 55 there, Long Beach Sport Fishing, is going to start running their San Nick trips again. The nice thing about the Cowcod Conservation Area being closed, they can fish a little deeper now. So that's going to open up some new areas that have not been fished in 20 years. Maybe a little less. I don't remember when they actually put it in place. It's been a while. So that's an option there. Santa Barbara Island. The only thing that's really reopened that was closed was the Osborne Bank. And that can have good rock fishing, but just like anything else, the dirt clod, when it's off, it's off. So if you were at Santa Barbara Island and struggling like everybody else always does, and you're thinking about putting your boat up for sale when you get home, maybe stop at the Osborne on your way out. You might get you a nice lingcod or a red or something like that. But remember, you can only keep two. San Clemente Island has not been getting any coverage at all. I'm sure once the Thunderbird starts running trips here, they'll be going out there. Some of the other boats will as well. You can expect there to be yellows there, sea bass maybe if there's squid around. The bass fishing will improve. It's been slow, but it's it's not going to stay slow forever. And private boaters are mostly going to be bass guys at this time of year running over there fishing calicos. I might do a trip here in the next couple weeks if I can. I've got an article coming up about fishing calicos there, and I want to have some fresh pictures. But yeah, that should see more coverage. And same with Catalina. The only report I've heard was and I think they were a Catalina. I'm not 100% sure. The Pride at 22nd Street Landing had a bunch of sea bass, I think limits, and a bunch of halibut on a day and a half trip last week. And of course, that was before all this weather. But yeah, that fishing at the island should improve. Last time I was over there, looked like a lot of areas where you could potentially fish halibut on the beaches and stuff. I didn't target halibut, but I did have a swim bait bitten in half after I hooked a good sized fish, which might well have been a halibut, but that's going to still be there. The sea bass fishing should improve. With rockfish open, you have a fallback option now, so the deeper stuff out there. And yeah, we're just kicking off the season here, so it's going to be all improvement from here on out, I hope. If this weather will stop, the wind will stop blowing for more than 4 days at a time. Along the coast, you're going to see a lot more coverage, sport boats and private boaters now that Rockfish is open. A lot of the sport boats along the beach will be fishing deeper. If you go on a 3/4 day boat, you can expect to be fishing 500 or 600 feet most of the trip, I would guess. They'll try and fish shallower, but along the beach, that shallow stuff's been beat to death for so long that to get quality fish, you really need to fish a little deeper. But that's always an option. And as always, the further north you go, the better the coastal rock fishing will be. The coastal rock fishing out of Santa Barbara is always going to be a lot better than it is out of Newport Beach or Oceanside. So just keep that in mind if you're a sport boat guy. Private boaters, if you don't have your electric reels yet, you should get yourself one. It makes it a lot more fun, a lot easier. If you're fishing rockfish. There was a little bit of bass coverage. My friend Nick from Cast Crank Podcast fished the other day with his buddy, and they had some bass and swim baits and crankbaits. Vaughn Podmore has been fishing in the harbor with his fly fishing trips because of the wind, and doing pretty good on mixed bass, sand bass, calico, stuff like that. Yeah, I saw Aaron Graham was running up to Palace Breweries to fish his halibut special on the native sun this morning and posted a picture of 54-degree water at Point Furman. Well, that looks horrible. Point Furman often upwells, so that may not be indicative of the rest of the coast. So hopefully that will bounce back again after this next storm, and by, it'll improve just to be good enough to bite right before the next round of wind comes next weekend. I'm hoping not. But yeah, so down in San Diego, I talked to my friend Tom Troop. He said the bass fishing has been pretty good, pretty steady on smaller fish in most areas. Rock piles, things like that, and spotty fishing has been really good in the bay. So that's going to go into the spring mode here. Hopefully the fishing in the kelp improves. Last week we had our first shot at good weedless action at Palace Breweries, so I'm sure once this water temp rebounds a bit, that'll be happening again. Haven't heard much from the Coronado Islands. There were some yellows caught there earlier this year, but I think it's just lack of traffic down there, honestly. So I think once the full day boats start running again, we're going to start seeing some reports of yellows coming out of the Coronados. And I talked to Ryan from the San Diego years ago, and he talked about it takes him a few days to cover the island thoroughly, drive around and just giving that whole thing a good look. So once those boats get off the dock consistently, we'll get a pretty good handle on what's happening down there yellowtail wise. The day and a half boats are still targeting bluefin tuna. I think there's one going out tonight, Thursday, I think. And what they're doing with little coverage they're having, they're sending out a spotter plane to locate fish before they run out. So it's not such a blind thing like it used to be 10 or 15 years ago when you go on an exploratory trip. Now they have a pretty good idea what's happening. And those bigger bluefin are still down there, pretty good distance below San Diego, but that should continue to move up hopefully. And stuff along the beach outside of Ensenada could pop up at any time. I think we're just coming off the full moon right now, so that bodes well for motion. Speaking of motion, I got a text today from a good friend of mine who spent a lot of time on the water, and it's not my information to share, but the good news is that twice this week they've seen bluefin tuna well into U.S. waters, and actually in an area where we'll often see some sign of early season fish. So I'm really hoping that that's an indicator of things to come, and weather permitting, I might even, and if I get over this cold, I may even go take a look around tomorrow afternoon, see what's going on. Hopefully, have some good to report. That's a lot of ifs, though. You're gotta get everything in line here for that to work out. But yeah, so this weekend's gonna suck. It's gonna be raining, and then Sunday's Easter anyway, so you guys should be at home with your families instead of fishing anyway. But if you get out midweek, that'd be the time to go. And let's all keep our fingers crossed that the wind doesn't blow as forecast next weekend, and we can have a normal weekend of fishing again. So happy Easter to you all, and I'll see you next week.